Oh, okay.
But however.
Well, that's where the camera is trained.
Well, we have cameras everywhere.
Okay. So we could,
Well, tell us, we'll see.
we could do it right out here.
Yeah, I've got another one here too.
Okay.
Yeah, so people want pictures. So, this is the central oath that
We don't get these.
No, we don't, because they just got elected.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
Great, Suzanne, that's the audience, and they want to see it. There you go.
Hey, can we have quiet in the room, please? Why don't you?
Can you hear me? Yep.
Everybody here.
Difficult since All right, Miss Robb, if you would please raise your right hand. I, Pamela J. Robb, do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and that I will discharge the duties of supervisor in Patton Township, Center County, with fidelity. Welcome aboard. Thank you very much. Pleasure. Miss Whitman, come on down.
That makes sense.
It's easier since I'm holding this. Ready? Well, you got to raise your right hand, please. There you go. I, Betsy Whitman,
I, Betsy Whitman,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge the duties of
and that I will discharge the duties of
supervisor
supervisor
in Patton Township, Center County,
in Patton Township, Center County,
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Board still.
Yeah.
Doug, what do we do about Sutan?
He's been taken, we already took care of him earlier today. so.
Okay,
Yes, yes, Sutan,
you already did, all right.
Sutan was exposed supposedly, so. And thank you all for waiting for this really exciting moment.
Yep, you're good.
Okay,
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Casey.
back to Jim.
Okay. Awesome, awesome. Take care. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, we're ready to start. Pam? So I'll open the meeting and then we'll do the election of the officers.
Right.
I'll call this meeting of the Patton Township Board of Supervisors, January 3rd, 2022, meeting to order. First item of business, we want to welcome our new supervisor, Sutan Magruder, who's on virtual. Would you wave your hand, Sutan, at everybody? So he's been elected to a full 6-year term. Pam Robb was elected to complete a partial term, 4-year partial term, and Bessie Whitman was elected to complete a 2-year partial term. So that's the announcements. Are there any other announcements from the board? Okay, let's move on. Pledge of Allegiance. If you can, please stand. Repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item of business is to elect chair and vice chair for the Board of Supervisors for the year 2022. I will accept nominations for chair. Supervisor Whitman, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to nominate Pamela Robb as chair of the Patton Township Supervisors.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Thank you. Are there any other nominations for chair? Seeing none, all in favor of Pam Robb as the chair of the Board of Supervisors for the year 2022, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Aye. None opposed? Pam is the new chair.
Thank you, Dan, on behalf of myself and the board for your service as a chair for the past year. Next on our agenda, now it's time to nominate a vice chair. I would like to call for a nomination.
Madam Chair, I nominate Elliot Abrams for vice chair.
Can I get a second?
I
Second by Whitman.
gladly second. I can't see it too tall.
Any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the ayes have it, and we passed. Congratulations, Vice Chair Elliot Abrams. And thank you. Moving on, next on the agenda is the addition to the posted agenda. Supervisor Whitman has asked that this item be added to the agenda. Is there any other board member who has an item that needs to be added on the agenda at this time? Seeing none?
Okay. So I want to,
Yeah, you'll need to explain, Ms. Whitman, you'll need to
Yeah.
explain what you want to add, and then
Yeah.
the board will have to
agree on it.
take a vote on it, yes.
So I would like to add, I would like to suggest that we reestablish the ordinance on masking, face covering, and the size of gathering that we had in place to ensure public welfare during the COVID upsurge. And we have we're faced with another upsurge. We're actually at the start or not in the middle of it. So, and I would also like to credit that this was brought forward, sent to the manager in December by Mr. Abrams, and a couple of other people saw it. I hadn't. So this is a group effort to get this back on the books.
Okay,
Oh,
So this,
I'll second, but I have a question. Should we put in a sunset for this, like, so that
well,
we could...
I think
at this point, the vote is just to add it
Add
to
it
the
to the
agenda or
agenda.
not.
We'll talk about it.
that's- Okay.
can I make a motion that this be added to the agenda?
So moved.
oh, I
So
can't.
moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second, Elliot. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstention? Ayes have it. We're putting this on the agenda.
So, Ms. Rob, then you should announce where it's going to be on the agenda.
Okay. Due to the urgency of this issue, which constitute this is an emergency business, I determined that this item should be placed after the public comment on the agenda.
Great.
Okay, moving right along, public comments. If you are attending by Zoom, please raise your hand on the Zoom application and wait for the chair to indicate it is your opportunity to speak. For those attending in person, please approach the podium and wait for the chair to indicate that it is your opportunity to speak. All public comments are 5 minutes. Is there any public comments? Please stand. Can we get your name and your township?
Hi, I'm from Joshport in the State College Borough, but today I'm representing, well with Laura Schittle, Representative Scott Conklin. We wanted to congratulate Sutan Magruder, Betsy Whitman, and Pamela Robb on their inaugurations today, their swearing-ins today. The new district lines for the 77th also has Patton Township in it, so we look forward to working with you in the near future on more things to come, whether that be intergovernmental cooperation or just municipal work and legislative lobbying from the municipal level to the state level, and hopefully it's the federal level. So thank you very much, and congratulations, Sutan, Betsy, and Pam.
Thank you very much for taking the
Thank you.
time. If there are any other public comments at this time? Okay, seeing none. Let's move down. Next on the agenda is presentation and public hearing. So we're at 3A.
You see the face mask.
Pick up Ms. Whitman's issue.
Oh, sorry, I'm
No, you're
moving,
good.
moving quite fast here. Okay, Supervisor Whitman.
Okay. So we are now officially opening the discussion on the reestablishment of an ordinance that regulates the wearing of face masks in public places, as well as the number of people gathering. I suggest that we look at our most recent ordinance, which would have been the ordinance 2021. It was the one that we had moved and that had in place earlier last year. And that we have an ending date of March 31st at 11:59, whatever. I checked with the ordinance that the borough currently has on their books. Their ordinance for masks, for face covering and gathering ends at the end of January. Their ordinance was written, I believe, in November. They hadn't anticipated this surge of the new variant of COVID. If we run this ordinance through the month of March, that will also, the ordinance will be in place at the time of spring break and at the time of students returning from spring break. That is my recommendation on the ordinance. I know we'll have to discuss that. The other recommendation, I'm sorry, I had written down another recommendation of this. I'll remember it in a minute. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Any
discussion? Supervisor Abrams?
Okay, I would second it, first of all, but if the CDC were to lower its alert level before March 31st, for example, in South Africa, we learned that it really peaked very quickly and then dropped. If it does something like that here, we might want to drop it and not have to wait 2 weeks till the next meeting to actually do it. So is there any way to insert a floating sunset?
Okay, Doug, I know there are regulations and procedures that we have to follow regarding this issue. What is your recommendation,
If I might just
Betsy?
jump in quickly. So the other thing I wanted to say was that we direct the staff to come up with an ordinance draft as soon as possible and get it advertised as soon as possible. And if we have to have a special meeting to make that happen, and then a special meeting to have the public hearing, which can only occur once the item is advertised and has been in, then there's been a wait period of 7 days. If we wait until our next meeting, which is at the end of the month, our next board meeting, then we're going to miss a critical time when this ordinance should be in place. So, sorry about that.
No.
Well, let me give you some comments, some commentary. Obviously, the board can carry out what they'd like. If you go back to the ordinance that we did enact and modify several times, it is based on statewide directives, orders, recommendations, and guidance issued by the Pennsylvania Governor, the Pennsylvania State Department of Health, and the Center Region Council of Governments. Currently, none of those bodies have issued any directives or guidance.
Okay.
So the basis for enforcing a regulation of this matter is a large question mark. If someone wanted to contest it, they would go to the district judge. The district judge would take evidence to see if it's if there's a valid basis for the ordinance. That's what's changed between last year or earlier this year, early 2021. The state dropped all their guidance in May or June, I don't remember exactly when it was, but so there is no guidance from the state. There's guidance from CDC on several different things, and I couldn't tell you right now exactly what it is.
So if I might, the borough is home rule. The borough has a very similar ordinance in place. Are they not as susceptible to being questioned about not having state?
Well, they have a health department, wherein we don't.
Okay.
I think they're basing their recommendations on what their health department tells them.
Okay.
I think they were supposed to meet yesterday, or today, tomorrow, I think, and provide the Borough Council some more information. I think you're going to find, and these are my personal observations, I'll tell you, you will find that vendors will post their stores, retailers will post their stores, but they're never going to call us to enforce it at their facility. They're not going to ask us to come in and tell their patrons what to do. When we've had calls in the past, they've been from one patron of a facility calling to either complain about the store not enforcing it or to complain about other people in the store. So puts us kind of in a awkward position where the vendors really don't want to enforce. The vendors really don't want us to tell people what to do, but they don't want to tell people what to do either. So not trying to discourage it, but I'm saying at this point, I think it might have limited efficiency or efficacy, might be the better word for it.
Supervisor Torino, I see your hands up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Doug answered some of my concerns and questions. Lacking the authority of a state emergency declaration, I tend to question whether we even have, whether whether we have the authority to enforce an ordinance like this. And not that I'm not in favor of encouraging, vendors to re-advertise that, asking their customers to mask up before they enter their facility. We can certainly pass a resolution today. We don't need a public hearing for that. But a resolution is not really effective. I mean, we passed a resolution on requesting the non-use of single-use plastic straws. I don't think that has had any impact in our community other than individual citizens, as when they visit a restaurant, can choose to request that they not bring them plastic straws. So the final thing is, if we can draft an ordinance, fine, I'd be happy to consider it, and I'll probably vote on it. But understand that it's probably not going to have the impact that we would request. And the second thing was the ordinance, as you mentioned, included limitation of gathering sizes, so we'd have to decide whether we're going to include that as part of the ordinance or not include it at all. And again, I question whether it's enforceable, even if we pass such a ordinance.
Supervisor Abrams.
I agree with your proposing the ordinance, but I also agree that it'll be difficult to enforce. And also, since we have different regulations for us to pass these things than a home rule entity, we have a problem with it anyway. So I think it should be a strong suggestion. And I understand some people feel their freedom's being taken away, and that if this happens, maybe eventually we'll have to be forced to wear seat belts and stop at red lights. I mean, who knows where this will stop?
Supervisor Magruder, would you like to chime in?
I'm just sitting here reflecting. I agree with the proposal. If it's not enforceable, I don't think that we should pass something that's not going to be enforceable. I think that just sets a bad precedent moving forward. I would be in favor of a resolution though, so what's one step below that ordinance? And if that's the resolution, then I think that would probably be best. At the very least, it's signaling that this board takes COVID-19, this pandemic, seriously, and we're requesting, that businesses and individuals sort of do what they can to protect the community. And it's sort of like up to the moral code, I guess, of individuals and businesses for whether or not they're going to take that resolution and make some policies or, consequences around that. So I agree with a resolution. If an ordinance is not going to be enforceable, I don't agree with
Thank you.
that.
Supervisor Whitman.
So I have a question, probably directed at the manager. When we had our ordinance in place earlier 2021 and the statewide mandates, I guess, ordinances were in place, statewide and federal, we also had difficulty enforcing the ordinance, as I recall. And I don't think the police force, and I see the chief is on with us, and I know we've had a discussion about anytime we have an ordinance, really how likely it is to be enforced given our staff power in the police force. So I get it that it's going to be hard to enforce, and I get it that a resolution will be easy to pass and it doesn't have much impact. So I would say if the resolution is not going to have much impact, and why not try for the ordinance? We may get pushback from the public, but my concern, I guess I would be most respectful of the concern that Chief Jolly would have if we stuck to or tried to implement an ordinance, and what implications that would have. And I would also like to suggest that we, at this point, I don't see any hands up from the audience, but there may be some comments from the audience. I actually was motivated to introduce this as an ordinance because of an outreach by a citizen, so I'm following through on that. And it's also something that I believe we should try to do, and we'll vote for it that way, but understand the challenges of the enforcement.
Supervisor Whitman, I would like to hear from Chief. Chief, can I have your comments on that?
And Amber's
Yeah, certainly. So the ordinance that the board passed late 2020 and that carried over into 2021, and as Doug had mentioned, we modified that numerous times based on how things were going. The police department used that really as an educational tool. We did, by and large, receive complaints from citizens rather than from business owners or managers or workers, whatever the case may be. So we would use that really as an educational tool rather than as some type of punishment for not wearing a mask. But we would obviously let people know that we did have an ordinance that was in line with what the state and the CDC was recommending at the time. So we did not say to anybody, if an ordinance was passed, obviously the police could cite, and then it would be up to Judge McLean, who was just there earlier, to hear the evidence and then to make a decision based on his belief on what the ordinance, if it was enforceable or not. So.
Okay, we're going to hear from Amber Concepcion, and then we're going to move on. Amber?
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Robb, for recognizing me. And thank you to Supervisor Whitman as well for introducing this. I would urge the board to consider the ordinance. I think, you know, part of this is about setting norms and just creating expectations. So I think most people are going to comply with what the expectations are. If the expectations and norms are that we wear masks at this point in time while we're getting through this really difficult surge in the number of cases, you know, I think there may be outliers that are, you know, not willing to comply, but I think we would be able to really increase the number of people who are wearing masks in our public places and thereby help protect essential workers who are in those establishments so that they can keep their workforce healthy. In my role on the State College Area School Board, we are really concerned about making sure that we keep schools safe to be open and that we have sufficient staff to be able to keep our schools open. And that we don't, you know, because of the concern of illness spreading through our population and affecting the school system. You know, anything that we can do to, you know, dampen transmission in the community so that we can protect like the most vital services such as schools and our healthcare system. And we know that Mount Nittany is already struggling. You know, I think it's worth it if we can, even if it can't be completely enforced, but it creates norms and expectations that will significantly increase the amount of mask wearing, that could decrease transmission, and it seems worthwhile from that perspective. I don't have input on the gathering, you know, and limits on gatherings. I haven't, you know, taken a chance to look at that, but certainly mask wearing in public seems like low-hanging fruit. So thank you. Thanks for considering.
Thank you, Amber. I see one more, and then we're moving forward. Mr. Jim Payne? Jim?
Yes, thank you. As far as norms, you go to a lot of stores, and the norm is to not wear a mask. Those of us that do wear a mask feel like we are in the absolute minority anymore. But you go to Sheetz, you go to Wegmans, you go to Target, majority of people inside the stores, other than the employees, as far as customers, many people don't wear masks. So I don't think an ordinance is going to do too much, and a resolution wouldn't either. But at least a resolution, as Mr. Magruder says, passes along that the Board of Supervisors is taking this seriously. And if they advertise the resolution and put it in the paper a few times or whatever, you know, maybe more people will say, well, yeah, maybe I should do it. There's a lot of COVID deniers out there, anti-vaxxers, one of which was my brother-in-law who passed away 2 weeks after getting COVID from so-called heart problems. That's a hard way to learn a lesson. You can't lead a horse to water and make it drink, but just put the word out. Wake up, people.
Thank
That's
you.
it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Payne. So Betsy, Supervisor Whitman, would you consider a resolution more so than an ordinance at this time?
I do not want to consider a resolution. I want to stick to the ordinance. And I would
Okay.
actually request that we hear from, I believe it's Jackie Huff who had her hand raised. I know that you did want to cut it off, but I would respectfully ask that we could get a comment from her.
Let me see. Oh. Do you see it?
Yeah, the one labeled Gregory Huff.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, that's me. I'm her husband.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just
Oh, I was
assumed.
going to say.
Sorry about
Anyway,
that.
thanks. That's fine. She's more important than I am. Anything that keeps kids in school and keeps the students at Penn State in their classrooms in person, I'm all for that. If it's a mandate, if it's whatever it takes, I think we just do it. I'm just voicing my concern for that, or my concern, my support for any kind of masking, whatever resolution, something, whatever language you want to call it, as long as we can show some support for that, I'm all for it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, calling for a motion for an ordinance for,
And if I could amend the motion before we, I would remove, I would suggest removing information about the gathering size
Okay.
and limit it only to the wearing of a face covering in a public place.
so would you like to do the motion?
Yes, I would. Do I need to repeat the motion?
Yes.
I move that, that we direct the staff to write an ordinance that would require that people in public places wear masks, public places or that have access to the public. I believe that's how it's worded. I can't remember the exact wording. That's what we had worded before. And that public places or places of businesses that are open to the public have a sign on their entrance saying that it is required that people wear a mask before they enter the building.
Can I get a second?
I thought it was already seconded, didn't I? Was wrong.
Well, I restated the motion.
She
so
restated the motion.
it was
I'll second it, so we can,
Okay,
Get
we
it.
have a second. All in favor? No. Sorry.
discussion.
Discussion?
Madam Chair, I'm willing to consider an ordinance. And so if the manager is able to, with the help of Supervisor Whitman, draft the ordinance for us to look at, send it to us by email so we can consider it, and then call a special meeting to vote on the ordinance before our next scheduled January meeting. I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to consider it. And I need to see something in writing.
I
Okay.
agree.
Because we don't have
yeah.
anything
That's
written right now.
Fair enough, yeah.
Fair enough. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Elliot.
Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Abrams, I'm
Well,
sorry.
I think if we pass an immediate resolution, that escalates it from where it is right now. And I think if the situation worsens during January and we really see that even more people in the area are catching it and being hospitalized, then we have to escalate some more. Don't think we're quite there yet. Like, my wife and I went to a basketball game last night, and we were just happy that Penn State beat Indiana. And so I'm willing to wait until we see the paper, but I don't think we should wait on the resolution of what we think people should do.
All right.
Now, Madam Chair. I would just say that the two are not mutually exclusive, that we have a motion on the floor, we can call for a vote on that motion towards a resolution, towards a
Ordinance.
And then after that, somebody could introduce
The
a resolution.
resolution, fine.
Yeah, so I agree with your last
Okay,
comment.
we have,
But I think
I'm sorry, Supervisor Magruder.
You're fine. Thank you. And I'm new to all this, so not sure about the process. I do agree with Elliot. If we could do a resolution more quickly, I think I would feel comfortable with that. And then if we had some time to see in writing the particular ordinance, I'd be in favor of calling a special meeting for that. Again, I think my concern is obviously with the health and safety of residents in Patton Township and surrounding areas. And again, I think the enforcement piece and what are the actual consequences, I want something to actually have teeth. And so that's something I would want to have clarity on as well. That
Okay.
if it's enforced, what does that actually look like specifically again? So.
Okay, can I ask Doug, Doug, can we pass the ordinance and then come back in and do the resolution right behind it?
Well, you don't, if you're going to pass an ordinance, you really don't need to do a resolution. Resolution won't add anything to the ordinance.
That I,
Was that the question, or did I not understand?
No, yeah, but the time frame on it, that's my concern. If we wait to do the ordinance, how long would that take to move it forward?
To move an ordinance forward?
Yeah, the 7-day wait and,
So there'd be whatever time it takes to draft, to put together a draft of the ordinance. And we have to send that draft to the CDT and put a legal ad in the paper. That takes a couple of days, and then it has to be a 7-day period from when it's advertised to when the board can meet to look at it. Now, understand, you can't have an email discussion about what's in that draft ordinance.
okay,
So,
yeah.
and then if there's any changes to that draft, we start that process all over again.
So what's on the table is an
So you
ordinance.
probably got at least a couple of weeks, I would say, probably. I mean, it'd be hard to do it any quicker than that.
Is it the same for the resolution?
No, a resolution, the board could, if somebody wanted to try and give me some general language, you could, I mean, well, you probably need something for the public to look at, but you could make a statement tonight that says, we want to encourage everyone to wear masks at all times when they're in public places. And we intend to pass a resolution to that effect at our next meeting. That's a statement of policy that has as much effect as a resolution. So you could do that tonight.
Okay, I don't want to waste too much more time on this.
Yeah.
So what's on the table is an ordinance. Second, do we have enough votes? I'm calling,
I would just like to point out that if we pass an ordinance that does not, a resolution would be immediate, but it would not be as impactful. An ordinance, might wait a couple of weeks, we would have a little more teeth. It seems to me that we could do both. So I think the concern that Mr. Magruder expressed is that if we go ahead and focus on the ordinance, we won't have anything in place over the next 2 weeks. But it seems to me if we have an ordinance in the works, that is at least something in place, is it not? Or-
Yeah, the difference between a resolution and an ordinance, a resolution is, in essence, a statement of policy. This is what we believe, this is what we think you should do. An ordinance implements, is an enforceable law to make other people do something
Right.
that they may not want to do, or let me put it, that they may not, of normal practice, want to do. So an
okay,
ordinance would have the ability to, you'd have a fine that would be involved or something like that. So that's the difference between a resolution and an ordinance. Because an ordinance affects other people beyond this
Okay.
room, then that's why the additional public notice is required.
okay, what's on the table is an ordinance, and we have a motion and we have a second. I'm calling for a vote. All in favor of the ordinance, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 3.
Did you
Any
vote?
opposed?
No.
So,
No.
all right, so it's 2.
So you voted aye, Ms.
Yeah.
Rob? Okay, so 3-2, so I can start working on that. I would say,
So the
To-
ayes
to-
passed, so I can say that passed?
well, that's to put something together to look at
Right.
a next meeting. I would suggest that maybe somebody make a motion to give the chair the authority to set a special meeting date for this single purpose.
Okay.
That would make it easier to get the meeting date set.
So moved.
So moved. Can I have a second? For
Second.
me and you? Supervisor Whitman, Supervisor Trevino. All in favor, say aye.
For discussion.
Aye. Discussion.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Magruder and Abrams opposed.
I'm not,
I thought he just raised his hand.
well,
This was to convene a special,
Yeah,
we
meeting.
can do
Meeting?
that. We can do that, but I have a question.
Oh, okay.
I think when we're finished this, we should actually pass a resolution, and the resolution should say something about how we hope that this would be over. We believe that the recent reopening and everything in the last 6 to 12 months is a great thing, and we all hope that it would continue and expand, but the reality is we have this new variant going around, and so we have to suggest a policy of returning to more protection for ourselves and the people near us. And that would be sort of what the resolution would say. And that, sure, we can pass an ordinance. I don't know how enforceable it is, but I think that you could almost threaten an ordinance in a way if people don't willingly comply. But I don't really think that the ordinance alone isn't really going to do anything, except the people that are already putting masks on will be fine with it, and the people that are strongly opposed will just have some other reason to be upset.
Can I make a recommendation that after we have this special meeting, that we bring up the resolution so we can keep this move, so we can keep the agenda moving? Is it okay with our board?
It's fine.
and so if the resolution can be enacted immediately, why can we not just vote on that? Will we have to vote on that today? That seems pretty straightforward.
Supervisor Magruder, I think it still has to go through the same process of notifying the public and almost the same time limit.
If I might,
Doug?
Madam Chair, I think that the timeline would actually be very different for a resolution,
Okay,
and I think it would take us maybe a few minutes to have a motion. I don't think we would need any more discussion on it. I think it would be relatively quick to pass a resolution.
I thought I asked that earlier. Doug, did I ask that earlier, that we can pass?
No, I provided the resolution, or the timeline for an ordinance. Again, a resolution, a resolution is typically a written statement.
Right.
Which we do not have with us tonight.
Okay,
But I said in lieu of that, if somebody wants to make a statement, as Mr. Abrams did,
okay,
and say, and the board could act on that as, this is our policy, which we're going to put into a resolution, then people could comment on that resolution at the next meeting.
okay, so I'm going
The only thing we're lacking today, if we had a piece of paper in front of us that had been handed out that said this is the resolution that we're all going to consider and pass, you could take action. Without that paper and the public having an opportunity to see it beforehand, we're a little bit limited, I think, on what you really want to do in a public forum. So like I said, if you want to make a statement of policy and then follow that up with a written document later, I think that would be the most appropriate course this evening.
Betsy Dupuy actually has something to chat
oh,
about. Elliot has his hand.
I thought Betsy. Can we hear from Betsy? Thank you.
I just put in the chat to Ms. Whitman that the board could simply resolve today that persons entering establishments served by the public or otherwise used by the public be required to wear masks. It's not a long statement, it's not a resolution, but you can resolve to do that at the meeting today and then follow it with a formal resolution at your next meeting.
Great. Can we take this consideration into hand, Doug?
Yeah, that's what,
Well, that's up to,
that's what Betsy.
yes, you can, it's up to the board to make those decisions.
I'm asking the
So
board, I'm sorry.
I move that we do exactly what the solicitor suggested,
I second.
and
I second.
that we keep open the idea of the ordinance, that we're going to have something to read and pass after it's been read and considered.
Okay, I second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed and any abstentions? Ayes passed. All right, moving on to next on the agenda. Presentations and public hearing. We're on 3A, CATA A route disruption. Doug, you want to take that?
Yeah, we'd received correspondence back from Dr. Spacholski, the chair of the CATA Board of Directors, in response to comments and questions that we had sent over Dan Trevino's signature back in early November. There were several questions asked about, what's going to happen with the A route, or is there a possibility to do anything to restore some sort of service? The chair from CATA has provided explanations for why they did what they did and why it would be very difficult for them to do anything differently at this point. I think at the last meeting we noted that the board should look at options. I think maybe they're willing to consider options, but I think we're going to have to keep talking to them to get them to really take action. It's my brief summary of what they provided. They provided several pages of backup information also.
Okay, what I would like to say is due to the correspondence that we received, it was during the time of our holiday. Most of our supervisors were away, and even just to give us a little more time to review this, I'm just asking that we put this on the next agenda to give the board some time to digest what was sent out. Supervisor Abrams?
I agree with that, Chairperson Rob, and I also think that we should work with our advisors and board to encourage CATA to do what they can so that when fall semester starts, they can really beef up the activity. They should be hiring over the spring and summer, and the target should be more public transportation rather than less. It goes along with the climate change idea, just about everything that is favorable about public transportation gets more so, and we have a temporary glitch because we don't have enough people who drive the buses, so we can't force anybody to restart the service that can't exist. But we can set targets for resumption or increased service by the fall.
I see Mark on the line here. Mark, Mark is our representative at CATA. Could you give us some input? Is it okay?
I have a brief update from our CATA meeting on December 13th, which was the proposal from the CATA staff on how to handle the situation. And this applies to the A, G, K, and S routes. So of course the A and the G are the primary Patton routes. They are recommending waiting until our reimagined CATA study is done, which won't be done until sometime in the summer. And then of course the CATA board and staff will have to process that study. So based on the information that was shared with me, as it's going, I would not expect that A route or the G route to be back anytime in 2022. That's not an official statement, that's just my analysis of the situation. So if the desire is to restore service to Parks Forest as soon as possible, I believe my recommendation is to formally request microtransit service in Park Forest and possibly Grays Woods.
Okay. Mark, thank you, and thank you for representing us. I look forward to following up on this as our board will continue to stay on top of this. Thank you. Any other comments from the board?
Should
All right.
Elliot, should we put this on the agenda as an item to perhaps consider it each month through the spring, just so that we know that
Okay.
we're thinking about it?
Elliot, I agree. We Doug, can we put something in our agenda, like a update?
Yep.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Next on the agenda is the organization of the Board of Supervisors. Doug?
You have in the agenda a listing of both in general how our meetings are typically scheduled for each month, and then on page 5 there are the specific dates that will lay out for the rest of the year, up to and including the reorganization meeting for 2023, which would take place on January 3rd of that year. The board has been meeting for the last year and a half at 5 p.m. We had some discussion in December. Ms. Whitman did ask if I could try to get some public input on starting time. I didn't get a chance to do that prior to this meeting.
That's fine.
I would suggest the board discuss that, set at least a meeting time for the January 26th meeting, or could set meeting times for the rest and revisit the issue if they'd like at that point. But again, at this time, the dates as shown on page 5 and meeting time to be determined by the board members.
My suggestion is the starting time for the meeting to continue at 5 o'clock. Do I have any objections at this time? Bhutan,
I object.
okay.
Yep, is that what I'm saying?
So Doug, for the January 26th meeting, we'll start at 5 o'clock?
Yeah, if that's what the board should take action on this, because it needs
Okay.
to be advertised.
Was that an objection?
Can I, did you make an
Was that an
objection?
objection?
Yeah, for 5 o'clock start time, I'm wondering if 5:30, if that could be pushed back to 5:30.
I agree with making it as easy as possible for everyone to attend.
Okay. 5:30?
Fine with me, yeah.
Okay. All right, can I get a motion for starting time at 5:30?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Whitman? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion passed. Thank you. All righty. Moving on, board committee appointments. Doug?
On page 5 of the agenda, we have the assignments as they were filled last year. ABC Committee, Mr. Abrams and Ms. Robb. The Cable Consortium was Mr. Trevino. Spring Creek Watershed Commission, Mr. Trevino. Open Space Liaison, Ms. Whitman. Tanner County MPO was Ms. Robb, and Solar Power Joint Purchase Agreement Committee, Ms. Whitman, with Mr. Pegger as an alternate. So the board should determine if you'd like to stay with those or if any of those should change for 2022.
Okay. What is going to change is the CCMPO because it goes with the land use, community and infrastructure. So we'll be talking about that shortly. But otherwise, everything should stay the same. Any suggestion from the board? Any objections from the board? Supervisor Abrams?
So I would be the MPO person?
Well, we haven't got there, right?
That's next.
That's
I think
next.
at this point, just whoever ends up on the land use and
Be the same.
community infrastructure, Lucy Committee at COG would also take the MPO position, I think.
And we'll talk about that shortly.
Okay,
All right.
sorry.
So moving right along. So we're talking about, we're moving to 3B3, which is COG committee assignments. Okay, Doug? There are a few changes at this time, and Doug, if you can.
Yeah, so we need to If you look at the chart that's on page 7 of the agenda, that has the matrix with the committee names and meeting dates. So Ms. Robb and Mr. Abrams as chair and vice chair would automatically be assigned to the executive committee for 2022. We have spots where Ms. Tees originally was, or last year filled spots at Human Resources and Parks Capital, and also as the alternate for Public Safety. Those would need to be filled. And then, as Ms. Robb noted, the Land Use and Community Infrastructure position, which she previously had, should be filled by somebody else. And then the COG is proposing a new ad hoc committee, or it's been approved, an ad hoc committee to look at governance for Parks and Recreation. This is a special committee. I'm not sure how long exactly it's intended to be. I think hopefully they think should get this issue taken care of within a year. But this new committee and looking for representatives to be named to that also, so that they can get together and get an organizational meeting together in February. So alternate at Public Safety needs to be filled. If this is assuming nobody else changes. Primary at Human Resources, Parks Capital needs to be filled. Primary and alternate at Lucy Committee, and a primary and perhaps an alternate for Parks and Rec Governance.
Okay, for Public Safety, I'm on. Anyone looking to be an alternate?
I'll be willing to be the alternate.
Okay.
Public Safety.
All right. Human Resources. Sue Tom, would you be interested in either
yes.
Parks Capital or Human Resources?
Human Resources, I'm not sure how many y'all would want me to sit on. I want to be mindful of not overstretching myself.
Okay, these
Yes,
times, you know, they start at 12:15,
Yep.
so would you be interested?
In the Human Resources?
Yeah, or Parks Capital. These are the two that Anita was on.
I mean, I think I can handle two. I can do both of those.
Okay. So, okay, Parks Capital. Do we have an alternate? Or can we leave it, Doug, and come back with an alternate?
Pardon?
Can we leave Parks Capital and come back with an alternate?
When does it usually meet?
12:15.
I can be an alternate.
For Human Resources?
No, well, either or both.
No, okay. Now, Ellie, you know we talked about the land use. So, are you good with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I would be very happy to shed facilities, although they've been very interesting meetings.
Okay, Elliot and I spoke about the land use, community infrastructure, which is now Lucy, and the CCMPO. Elliot was willing to be the main representative and me as an alternate for both.
Okay.
Okay? So the only thing we're looking to fill right now are the Parks and Rec governance.
I could serve on that.
All right. Great. So I think we're covered.
Well, Elliot said he wanted somebody to.
Oh, the facilities, I'm
relieve
sorry.
about facilities. And I would be willing to do that.
Okay. So we have Whitman. Larry, are you still available as the alternate?
Yes, I would like to stay as the alternate.
All righty, great. So at present, everything is filled. Doug, did you get everything?
Yep.
Okay.
One,
Do we need to vote on this?
Yes.
All right, I make a motion to accept the COG committee assignments.
Second.
Discussion.
I have a
Elliot.
Elliot?
Our past practice has been that we trust each other to represent whatever we had voted on at our meetings, and to try to represent what we felt the sentiment was of the rest of the board at other meetings we went to. And that has worked pretty well over the years. But we should, if we feel that one of us is not doing that, we should tell the other person or bring it up so that we can fix the problem.
Okay.
We don't have a problem now, but I think everybody's sort of, I mean, if we have a vote of 4-1 or something and I'm the one, I feel a responsibility to represent the position taken by the 4.
Okay.
And that way, the majority of whatever we decide, that's the position we take
At our meeting.
At the COG.
Okay. Thank you, Elliot.
Also, in terms of the motion, the board would also add to it continue our practice of having alternates, including ad hoc alternates such as myself.
Yeah, I had
or
that
another.
next. You're beating me to the
Include that as
punch.
part of the motion.
Okay, great. Can we add the Patton Township policy to this motion?
Yeah.
All in favor?
I accept it.
Okay, can I get a second on that?
A second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Any nays? Any abstentions? So this passes. Thank you. Thank everyone for taking the time out to be on these committees.
Madam Chair, with your permission, may I request a temporary recess?
Recess.
Thank you.
Yes, I would like to make a 5-minute or a 10-minute recess?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, you sure? 5-minute recess, everyone? Doug. Dan said he'll be our delegate for PSAC.
Okay, we'll just announce that when we get back in the.
Okay.
I think we're.
I'm calling the meeting back to order. Next on our agenda is the Pennsylvania State Association for Township Supervisors Conference, the voting delegate and authorized attendees. Doug?
Yep, the conference this year is scheduled for April 24th to 27th. It's in Hershey, as it has been most years, although they did cancel it in 2020 and held a abbreviated version in 2021. Board members should let me know tonight or very early and within the next few days if they would like to go. We need to make hotel reservations on the 11th of January. It is much, much easier to make reservations and cancel them later and then try to make reservations later. So if you think you might want to go, tell me tonight or within a couple of days. We'll make reservations, and then the board should take action to designate someone as the voting member who's plans to be there. I will not be there this year. I have a son getting married in Colorado on April 22nd, so I'll be out there.
Congratulations.
And, but I'll check and see what other staff might be going this year. So if you're thinking about attending, let me know. So Dan?
Supervisor Trevino?
Thinking about it.
Okay, like I said,
Supervisor.
it's pretty easy to sign you up and cancel later, so.
Can we decide who's going to be the designated
Voting delegate.
voting delegate?
Volunteer.
Okay. All right.
Ms. Rob?
Can I make a motion to accept Supervisor Dan Trevino as the designated voting member for the 2022 PSAC conference in Hershey, April 24th through 27th, 2022? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second, Whitman? All right, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passed.
Okay, so I'll just confirm by email who's planning to go, and then we'll make those reservations, like I said, on January 11th.
Okay.
Okay, so mine just went blank. My laptop just went blank, so, all right. Moving right along, we're at 3B5, Manager Employment Agreement. So,
Yep. Every 2 years, the Board of Supervisors has an opportunity to review and renew the agreement that I have with them as manager for Patton Township. This year's version would run for potentially till January of 2024. There was a specific date, although I'm not sure I'll be here by then. Anyhow, so just to cover all the bases. So the agreement goes through duties and authorities, refers back to the township code, salary, talks with basis of what I was paid last year, and normal raises are usually what are provided to the rest of the staff in terms of COLA and merit raises. There are several sections that have to do with other benefits. I receive health, disability, life insurance benefits, vacation, sick leave, automobile reimbursement, retirement, a few other things that I don't need to go into detail. So at this point, I would ask the board to consider action to approve the agreement and authorize the board chair to sign it on behalf of the board.
So moved.
Second. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second, Abrams. All right. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Motion passed. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
All right. Moving right along, next on the agenda is public safety. There are no items. Number 5, public works operations. There's no items. Number 6, engineering, planning, and zoning. There are no items, but the planning commission is scheduled to meet January 10th. Moving right along, number 7, administration. Is 7A, authorities, boards, and commission. ABC committee recommendation. All right. Give me a second. All right. The ABC committee has reviewed the applicants for open seats and made the following recommendations for appointments. The Recreation Advisory Committee, 3-year term is Greg Turner. Zoning Hearing Board, 3-year term is Anthony Grillo. Planning Commission, 4-year term is Ellen Foreman. Open Space Stewardship Committee, 6-year term is Heidi Miller. Open Space Stewardship Committee, 2-year partial term is Joe Baliglione. And Zoning Hearing Board, alternate 2-year partial term is Christian, and bear with me, Christian, is Swanisek. There is still one vacancy on the Open Space Stewardship Committee for a 4-year partial term. Can I get a motion to accept the recommendation for the appointments?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
Just for clarity, who's on this board?
Okay. I'm
Am I able to
sorry.
ask that?
What was that, Sutan? I'm sorry.
For clarification, the ABC board, who's on that?
That's Elliot and Pam are the,
No, are you asking what is the ABC?
Well, the committee that reviewed these applications,
Yes. That
How long-
that was Supervisor Abrams and myself who did the interviews.
You can
okay.
expand that as people want.
Okay? You have any other questions?
Nope.
All right. Okay, there's a motion on the table. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations to all our appointees. All right, moving to our next on our agenda, 7B, the fee schedule update. Doug?
yeah, the several fees that are enacted region-wide have to be enacted individually by each municipality to be compliant with state regulations. So although the Center Region Code Administration provides services for all 6 municipalities, we do need to individually each accept this. So there are some changes that the Code Administration has proposed, increasing building fee, permit fees by 8% this year, and increasing annual rental housing fees by 2.3%. The other item that's provided regionally is the refuse and recycling collection. There are some minor changes for this year in terms of a few cents. So the rate for regular service the monthly rates going from 2015 to 2019, $20.19 a month. The low-use service is going from $16.54 a month to $16.58. This, the table that's shown on page 10. At-door service, again, going up for 4 cents, and low-use service is going up for 4 cents. So those two items are included in this resolution. Ask the board to consider action to adopt as noted in the agenda.
Okay, is there any public input? Seeing none?
Madam Chair, I move to adopt Resolution 2022-001, the fee schedule revision.
Second.
Second is Elliott. Okay. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? The motion passed. All right, moving right along. Next on the agenda is 7C, pending board work items. Doug?
Sure. At the end of each agenda, normally you'll find a list of items that's titled Items to be Scheduled. These are items that have been briefly discussed at prior meetings and put on this list for future consideration. We've started going through an annual exercise of reviewing these to see if A, they should stay on the list, or B, what priority we should address them at. For tonight, I just want to get this out into the board's hands so they have the information. Primarily, that was included as attachment 7C, which is a listing of each of those items with a short narrative on how we got to where we are. Between now and the next board meeting, January 26th, I'll send out a Survey Monkey poll asking the board to review each of these items and, like I said, answer the questions, should they remain on the list, and if remaining, what's the relative priority, high, medium, or low, and then we'll review those results at the January 26th meeting. If you permit me, I'll just go through these items quickly, and there may be one or two that we can take off the list at this time.
Okay.
And save ourselves. So, can you pull up 7C, Alex? Yeah, thank you. I'll start with sustainability resolution. That was from a couple years ago. And note that since this came on our agenda, that the Council of Governments, Centering Council of Governments, has hired a sustainability plan and created a climate action sustainability committee and did adopt sustainability goals as a region in 2021. So this may affect whether we need to keep this on our list or not. The next item, open space preservation options, again from a couple years ago. We been working with the Hamer Foundation and Clearwater Conservancy over the last year to put together a conservation easement for the Grays Woods Preserve. The board took action in December to formally approve that. It hasn't been finalized yet, but everybody's working towards that, get that done by the end of January. Regulating special events on public property. Again, this is an item I raised back in 2017 following the alt-right event and counter-protest in Charlottesville, Virginia in August of that year. The borough, State College Borough has adopted regulations along this line. We haven't done anything to address this for a while. Authorities dissolvement, the board did take action back in 2018 to dissolve a couple of authorities that we have that have assets but really nothing to work on. These include the Patton Township Water Authority and the Industrial Commercial Development Authority. As I noted, the board did take action to direct the manager and solicitor to work on this, and we haven't made much progress on that project. Home occupations, this became a topic of discussion back in 2017, mostly generated because of a certain one particular home-based business in Park Forest. After extensive review, it's noted township found the property was compliant with our regulations. We haven't taken any other action. I just note that that business has relocated most of their work to another township. So most of those issues have quieted, not all gone away, but quieted from the level that they were before. Item that's been on the list for a while, stargazing permits, came up just before the pandemic of the COVID-19 pandemic, and really it got dropped because of need for the manager and boards and everyone else to work on different issues during the pandemic. It's remained on the list. I really haven't heard any discussion or inquiries. If we can keep it on the list, I can make some inquiries with Parks and Rec and the resident who had originally raised the issue locally and see where they are and that. And I can bring some more information back at the January 26th meeting on that issue. With that, I'll turn it back to the board.
Thank you, Doug. All righty. Next on the agenda is 7D, zoning hearing board decision on Chick-Fil-A.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's right. If we could, maybe, should we just wait for the poll? I had a couple of comments on things that I wanted to add to that.
Is this the time, Doug, or
Yeah,
did you
if the board has things they would like to add
Okay.
or ask questions of certain things, or if they, like I said, if there's anything that we think we can drop from the list at this point,
Okay,
it'd
Supervisor.
be good to have that discussion now.
Yeah.
All
Oh,
right,
great, thanks.
please feel free.
So I would just like to point out that I will be introducing a sustainability resolution. I know that we already have one at the COG level, but a citizen reached out to me, actually in the Sierra Club, and asked that Patton have one officially on the record. So I'll be introducing that at the January 26th meeting. That's, we already have a draft. That'll be in the agenda. I will also be introducing a plastics regulation resolution at the January 26th meeting. I've reached out to several of you and talked about that, and that will be working somewhat in conjunction with Ferguson and the borough, who are also pursuing similar regulation options. And I will be introducing something called we're calling a diversity, equity, and inclusion moment in the agenda. That this is referencing people, including people, as opposed to DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion, which I use the acronym for DEI. Not an issue so much as it is people. And I already have some ideas on how to make that happen at each meeting and coordinating with several other municipalities. So those two things would be added, the plastics resolution and a diversity, equity, and inclusion moment. And then I was going to suggest that we take off the agenda the open space preservation options, since we I don't think there's any need in the immediate future, and that could be addressed should any property or any fees become known to us, or I should say donation become known to us.
Okay.
And the authority's dissolvement, I'm sorry, I said that wrong.
No, that's correct.
If I remember correctly from reading the description, it sounds like we have come to a decision on that. So I would suggest that we
decision was made in 2018, we just haven't, the solicitor and I just haven't made any progress on it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
It'll,
So these are
it
more,
may be a little bit complicated, and we haven't even gotten to the point of figuring out how complicated it may or may not be,
Okay.
so.
sorry. So we leave that on, and that's something that is on your.
Well,
to-do
the
list.
issue would be, is it a high, medium, or low priority issue for the board?
Okay,
It may be a low priority, and we'll kind of keep it where it's
Okay.
at a low simmer.
okay.
So those are my comments.
Is there any other board member that would like to review it or add at this time? Sutan? There you go. So seeing nothing, so do we have to vote on this stuff? We don't,
No, there's no action needed at this point.
all right.
Betsy, the sooner you can get me the information on the new stuff,
Yep.
I can include it,
Yep, will do.
With-
Great, thanks.
the prior, so people can take a look at it and determine if that's going to be a high priority or what, so.
Okay, next on the agenda is the zoning hearing board decision on Chick-Fil-A. Doug?
Yep, the zoning hearing board met last month in December, took testimony from Chick-fil-A. I think the board had gotten a presentation from Chick-fil-A corporate office back at the December 8th meeting, and they showed a drawing where they were going to construct a second drive-through lane for their facility on North Atherton Street. Part of that new construction would include some canopies that would overhang those drive-through lanes. Both of the new canopies were going to be within the setback areas that are required for structures, so they were required to approach the zoning hearing board and ask for waivers for that. They also were needed to request a waiver for some buffer yard plantings in the rear and side set, or in the rear setback, that again were not possible because of the new drive-through lane and some utilities that are already back there in the back. The zoning hearing board took, as I said, took testimony on the 15th. They did reconvene on the 28th, and they took action to approve of those three variances for Chick-fil-A. So the next actions that we should see is Chick-fil-A submitting a land development plan to the township. That would go to staff first, and then to the planning commission, and ultimately would come back to the board at some point in the future. As they noted, I would suspect we're going to see that late winter, sometime, February or March. And their plan is to close the store in June. If they get all their approvals in place, close the store in June and go through a 10 or 11 week process of making all those changes and then reopening in August. If the board has any questions, I'll try to answer them. If the board wants to contest the zoning hearing board's decision, you would need to file an appeal with the Center County Court of Common Pleas. Any
Thank you, Doug.
questions? Or?
Board members, any comments?
Yeah, I had questions.
Okay, Supervisor Magruder?
Sorry, I'm trying to look at on page 11, there's a reference to, on the second stanza, on section B, for two canopy structures over the drive-through lanes and grant relief. What does that mean, grant relief?
Doug?
They granted relief. So the zoning hearing board determined that because there is a need for this and there's undue hardship on the property owner due to pandemic, that these structures can be built in an area closer to the property line than we normally would permit such things. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so this is not monetarily, we're providing.
No, it's relief from the regulations. So I think on the side yard, there's all structures are supposed to be at least 15 feet from the side property line. And in this case, one of these structures will be, the roof of the overhang will be, I think, 8 feet from the property line. In the back, it's a difference between 30 feet and 22 feet along those lines.
Madam Chair.
Okay, Supervisor.
If I may, I think Susan's question had to do with the word grant. Grant in this case is a verb, not a noun.
Oh,
So they were requesting that they be granted relief from the buffer yard planning requirement.
I read that wrong, thanks. Thanks, Dan.
okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Supervisor Magruder and Supervisor Torino. And Dove, thank you so much. Okay, moving on, next on the agenda is number 8, consent agenda.
So moved.
Hold on. Any supervisor that would like to discuss or remove an item from the consent agenda, this is the time. Seeing none?
I'll second.
Oh, okay.
Is it was seconded or not?
Motion and seconded. Discussion? Seeing
Typically,
none?
no discussion on consent agenda,
Oh, okay.
but you do need to call for a vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passed. Next on the agenda is the manager's report. Doug?
Getting there. First item under correspondence was we received a notice from the Center County Board of Commissioners that we were awarded a grant of $47,000 for improvements to Purdue Mountain Road. This was in response to a grant that Ms. Castruccini had written requesting county LFT funds. So that'll be funded this year to replace guide rail along there. And then in 2023, we'll be doing some pavement along that road. You had under item 9B was the quarterly housing starts. This is a look back at the number of single-family housing permits that have been issued in the last 12 months. It's a rolling average or not average, it's a rolling number. It includes each, reported each quarter, but counts the previous 4 quarters for permits that have been issued. You see we're still on a little bit of a downward swing here. Not sure what some of that I think is just a realization that there aren't many single-family lots left for development. One thing I was going to do and I forgot to do it is we did have, I think there were 8 or 10 townhomes permits that were issued. Those aren't included in here. They're counted as multifamily houses, but we're seeing more townhome units in the last couple of years probably than we are seeing single-family units. So, but you can see we're still nowhere close to where we were at the peaks back in the prior to the Great Recession of 2008. So I'll continue to bring that forward on a quarterly basis. Usually probably won't get that much discussion. And then in terms of upcoming events, our ABC Volunteer Appreciation Dinner is scheduled for February 11th, and we are working right now we sent a save the date out last month, and we'll be getting the formal invitations out either the end of this week or beginning of next week.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Moving now to number 10, committee reports. Several committee meetings were canceled during the month of December. Other committee meetings, reports were submitted and are in the agenda. Are there any supervisors that would like to add to their report at this time? Seeing none. Thank you. So we're moving on to the next agenda. Number 11, other business. Doug,
Nope, no other business.
any of the supervisors? No. I do have a statement. I would like to take this time again to congratulate my vice chair, Supervisor Abrams, and to congratulate the newly appointments. I also would like to I would also like to thank those applicants who applied for the openings on the authorities, commissions, and committees. But most of all, I would like to thank the former chair, Dan Trevino, for being an outstanding and productive chair, and also former supervisor Anita Tees for all of her dedication and hard work. Now, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second, Abrams. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this meeting is now adjourned.